Alright, we're given, this is number 12. F of x equals 5x plus 1. G of x equals absolute value of x. So, we want to find the composite f composed of g of x. That's like saying f of g of x. So, we're going to take function g and plug that into f. We're going to take function g and plug it into f. Right there, everywhere there's an x, we're going to put that whole function. So that guy right there is going to turn into the square root of x. 5 square root of x plus 1. Or just 5 square root of x plus 1. Alright, what's the domain? So, what happens here? Your x values go into g first, and then the outputs of g go into f. So what you're thinking here is the values are going to go into function g first, then they're going to go into function f. Well, the good thing about function f is that the domain of function f is all real numbers. So it can handle any value that g of x can give it. Okay. Now, what values can g of x handle? What's the domain of g of x? Well, it can't accept negative values. If you take the square root of a negative value, then you're going to get a non-real answer. So the domain of just square root of x is 0 to infinity. The good thing is everything that comes out of g, the range, remember all the outputs, remember what the range of the square root of x is? The output, the range, is 0 to infinity. So the range here gets fed into function f. Function f can handle it. 5 times any value plus 1 to any value, you can get an answer. So your domain of this composite function is basically limited to the domain of this function, which is 0 to infinity. So your domain here is 0 to infinity. Alright, so let's switch it around and find g composed of f. Let's find g composed of f. That's like saying g of f of x, right? So you take function f and you plug it into g. So function f gets put into function g, so f gets put into g. So this whole guy, this whole function gets put right in there. So that x right there becomes 5x plus 1. Now, so that's your composite function. Now what's the domain of this guy? Well, essentially everything that f's going to have a domain of all real numbers, but it also has a range of all real numbers. So it could actually output values that wouldn't work in here. It can output values that are negative. So what you need to do is basically just find the domain of this function. So to do that, remember what you do is you set it to greater than or equal to 0. You always take what's under the radical and say greater than or equal to 0. That tells you the positive values that you're going to come out of here. This is going to tell you the domain. Okay, subtract 1 from both sides. Divide by 5. X must be greater than or equal to 1/5. So this is the domain. This is the only thing that this can handle. So if you have values that are bigger than 1/5, negative 1/5, you're going to get a positive number here under the radical. So the domain here would be square bracket negative 1/5 to infinity.